I don't believe in going to doctors. Doctors are where you go when you have a problem. You should be working on your health when you don't have problems so you don't get problems and don't have to go to the doctor.
I'm going to take a hard stance here and we're going to see how this goes. It's going to be Carson versus Kris Krohn today. But I don't think bodybuilders are very healthy. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, they're building their body, and most people aren't. And I think they're probably more health conscious and more health aware than most people. I'm guessing in many respects, they're probably healthier. And then obviously, like, there's balance to all things, and bodybuilding is really all about muscles. It's not necessarily how healthy are you cardiovascularly, or maybe your joints or ligaments. So, I mean, it's a specific athletic niche.
Do you realize you just gave me like the biggest maybe on the planet? You're like, yeah, some of this and some of that, and yeah. But you're in the midst of a bodybuilding thing right now,
well,
right?
I mean, I would call it's a physique competition.
Okay, physique.
Right.
Enlighten me.
Yeah,
What's
so
the difference?
bodybuilding is you're literally getting so freaking jacked, and you're going to step out in a little thong, banana hammock, and you're going to take the stage, and people are going to stare at all of you, right? And that is one sport. Physique competition is more like beach body, right? You actually come out in board shorts. You're not as large as a bodybuilder, but you're typically, I mean, you're pretty ripped, right? I mean, you're toned, you're ripped, you're vascular, and it's its own competition.
Okay. And you're participating in the latter, the physique.
I did a physique competition 8 years ago. Had a great experience with just having a goal to work towards, right? The actual competition itself, I care zero for. It's just a marker, right? Uh-huh. And so I told myself, when I gain 15 more pounds of muscle, I'm going to do it again. And I spent the last 8 years doing that. And I'm currently up a little over 15 pounds of muscle from where I was at 8 years ago. And, this Saturday, I've got my competition.
What does 15 pounds of muscle look like?
I once had someone, this is probably probably 3.5.
Okay, so 3 times that.
Maybe 4 times this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good amount. 15 pounds of straight up muscle.
Well, listen, when I did my competition, I'm 6'3.5", and I took the stage dehydrated at 209. And for my size, guys that were 225 or 230 looked freaking massive. So I said, I need 15 more pounds, just as a goal, something to work towards over time.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in destiny, right? It's like, where are we going to be 20 years from now? Well, that means that I'm not always thinking about next month or 90 days out. A lot of what I do is I'm planning years in advance on some of these things.
So if I were to title today's episode in advance, it would be How to Be Healthy.
Sure.
Okay.
Which is loaded question, right?
Right. And I love that it's loaded. By the way, we released that TikTok video of you went super viral. You were talking about your workout routine and like the internet went nuts. You do arms on Tuesday? That's wrong.
I know, dude.
We're abs. Why aren't you doing back on Friday? Like
people get really stuck in like this whole concept of what the gym routine is supposed to look like. And I think I've reiterated my gym routine so many times that the only constant is that nothing is constant, because I don't want to ever work towards a plateau.
Yeah.
For example, look at the movement of a bench press. Well, right now you can see on screen that I've got my hands that are moving, right here over, where my nipples are. And all I'm doing is I'm working this substrata of muscle right here. Uh-huh. Well, then you're like, okay, well, if I work incline pec deck, I'm going to work this upper that really connects more of my clavicle to my shoulder muscles. And if I work lower, I'm going to work underneath the nipple. Well, that's way too rudimentary of a notion of how you actually build strength across 360 degrees of this. You'd have to bring in flies and presses and reverse presses and negatives. There's like endless change-ups to a routine, because I'm not interested in building one type of muscle. I'm interested in building all of them, right? Which means that, the only constant is change.
Okay. So that being said, that there's going to be an army of people that roll out and say, no, being healthy
He's not
is
doing
different.
it the right way.
When you start talking about these physique competitions, these bodybuilding competitions, you do things like cutting water, dehydrating yourself.
So I'm almost done with my first gallon today.
Okay.
Because I'm 6 days out, The 5 days prior, except for the last 2 days, my trainer has me drinking 2 gallons a day. It's creating water retention. I gained 1 pound yesterday just
from water.
Just in water. And then 2 days prior, I'll be on almost 0 liquids, likely diuretics. And what I'm doing is my body will be told, because I'm not drinking, that it should release what it has, and it will release more than I had before. And what it does is it dehydrates the body. Now, is this healthy?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Listen, this is just what you do for a show.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, I'm more interested in the experience. I'm 42, and right now I am stronger than I've ever been. I'm stronger at 42 than I was at 32. And by the way, I've been going to the gym for over 20 years. So I can bench more today. I can leg press more today. I can do so much more with my body than I've ever been able to before. I'm also lower body fat than I've ever been before. Like right now, I'm 3% lower than my previous body competition, and I still got 5 days to go. So I'm always chasing this definition of nobility. Better today than yesterday. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about health, it's like, well, listen, developing a certain level of musculature is only one vertical of health.
Okay.
And for me, 10 years ago, I got to the point where I got tired of fighting, I'll call it the battle of the bulge. And I realized I keep trying to lose weight to manage fat. And I had this shift with one of my coaches, which is, well, if you really want to manage fat, look at your body. Kris, you are big. You're 6'3". You put muscle on easy. There are some people that have a hard time putting muscle on. My body I put muscle on. Uh-huh. And so he said, if you'll put on, for every pound of muscle that you gain beyond your natural need, you'll likely burn at your height and weight, et cetera, 100 calories extra. So I'm like, wait, so if I put on 20 pounds of muscle, then I can eat 2,000 more calories potentially. Like I can literally eat large quantities now, and my muscles are residually burning a lot of that food. So the whole point of building muscles for me is it's diet management. But there's another part of me, like 2 years ago when I went to Alaska, I went on my sheep hunt. I'm to be in sheep shape is, in the hunting world in Alaska, is the most rigorous physical activity that you can do. You have no trails, you have nothing but elevation up and down mountains. I went up and down 40 different mountain peaks in 10 days in search of this ram. And to be in sheep shape, I had 100 pounds on my back. And that's what I was doing at the gym every morning, hiking up and down. It is just literally carrying, because you have to carry everything with you. There's no base camp. You're out in the middle of nowhere and you have to bring everything. And when you finally take your sheep down, it's on your back, the meat, the everything. So to be in sheep shape, I did 80 pounds it took me 6 months to get sheep shape ready. And I put on 80 miles over the course of that 10-day hunt. And it was only at 4 p.m. of the final day on the last mountain peak with gusting winds in sideways snow that at 530 yards, I had my shot. And I rolled in just after midnight to our final camp before pickup the very next morning. The buddy that came with me that trained, he got hypothermia on day 5 and had to be emergency flown out. That was Trent. So like this was rigorous. It was Arctic crossings. That was a total, like, and by the way, I think I lost 18 pounds in 10 days because you have no appetite. You can't put enough of these dehydrated meals that you're carrying in your body I was expending between 8,000 and 10,000 calories a day. And I couldn't get more than 1,500 in me a day. So, there's a whole science to this. Like people don't understand 3,500 burned calories is a pound. So if someone says, I want to lose 10 pounds, when I worked with Ryan Holyoke and he said, I want to lose 100 pounds, I said, that's 350,000 calories that you have to burn beyond your metabolic rate.
Yeah.
There's a science to that. So I get excited about the idea of how do you build musculature, for example, food management, beyond just maybe the vanity of feeling confident and looking a certain way. There's nothing wrong with some of that too, right? Then there's also the health of cardiovascular shape, blood pressure, heart, and then also energy management. Like I go to the gym 2 hours every morning because it gives me energy through the entire day. My whole routine there is not about muscles, and it transcends the whole lung expansion and healthy heart. That for me is like, I want to have energy at 9 p.m. at night when I'm playing with my kids instead of, oh man, I'm just so drained, I'm so dead. I'm like, no, I want to have energy for days. So health is a really big conversation, and it's not just muscles, and it's just not cardiovascular shape.
So I started this conversation out very facetiously, poking fun at the bodybuilders. And honestly, I've seen some bodybuilders that I look at how huge they are and I'm like, that cannot be healthy. And I've heard that when they get off stage, I've heard that when they get off stage, they nearly collapse.
Well, listen.
Which to me says,
everyone assumes that when you get on stage that you're at a 5% body fat. But the truth is you'll see people on stage at 10, 11%. And you'll see people all the way down to just a couple of percent.
Yeah.
And the science says that once you get below 5% body fat, the reason why we make fun of bodybuilders is because when they're highly vascular and have very little fat on their body, what you're doing is you're reducing that myelinic sheath where electricity is conducted through fat cells. And all of a sudden you think literally slower because the electrical current takes a little bit more time.
The Kronk stereotype comes from.
So you'll notice that these bodybuilders, when they go to a very low body fat, the moment the competition's over, they will come right back to 7, 8, 9% because they also know they can't build their next layer of muscle unless they're probably 9, 10, 11, 12, 13% body fat, because that is an ideal body condition for putting muscle on the body.
Yep.
Right?
So I love this. And actually, Kris, so like I said, I was being facetious. I believe you are one of the healthiest people that I know. But I think a lot of it extends beyond like the physique and the muscle and the bodybuilding.
In the beginning, dude, it was pure, I feel fat. I don't have confidence and I want to lose weight or I'll put muscle on so I can feel good. That was the start of the journey all those years ago. But I was just last week at one of my health clinics and we have this very expensive machine that you step on it and it reads your whole body, your circulatory system. And it said that my heart, the age of my heart is 9 years younger
than you actually are.
And they said they almost never see that.
Right.
Almost everyone, their heart is plus or minus 12 months of their actual age. And for me, that's just because, I mean, I've done marathons, ultra marathons, triathlons. I'm an athlete and I am a bodybuilder, even though I'm in a physique category, because I'm going to live to be 140 years old.
There it is. This is what I was driving at.
I'm going to be 140 years old. So I have to take care of my body or else what is, by the way, what's having time without money? And what is having longevity of life without health?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have the ability to, like for example, when I go to the gym, I do a very specific routine that doesn't put stress on my joints or ligaments because I have one set. I have a goal. I'm never going to tear my rotator cuff because those dudes, even after surgery, they're never the same again. And so there are certain lifts that I avoid. There are certain things, and I'm really good at listening to my body because it's going to last for 140 really great years.
So the reason I wanted to talk about it is that you've said it before that you want to live to be 140, that you plan on living to be 140.
I will.
And I think it takes an extreme level of health to do that.
Yeah.
And not just the bodybuilder muscle health. Like I think I would say you focus as much on cardio as you do on lifting, which
there's cardio, there's lifting. My wife and I right now we're doing NAD treatments.
Okay.
And NAD is, when you take a look at fountain of youth for the human, science has unlocked that they link longevity and quality of life to your telomeres. And the telomere inside the body, there are things that you can do to rejuvenate them. And NAD is an IV treatment that does that. It is one of the most bizarre feeling treatments. Because on NAD, you feel like you're 2 inches tall and 30 feet wide because it feels like 20x gravity.
You were sitting in a chair and you're like, I feel like I'm on the ground.
I know.
Why am I so heavy?
And I'm finishing my final treatment. And then every month they mobile come to my house and they do this. Yeah. So listen, I'm young, I'm healthy. There's a lot of people that are like, dude, why are you doing all this preventative stuff? I paid $38,000 this year for a preventative medicine doctor to come into my home, fly him in from Texas. And he's had us on treatments for 6 months. And I use a hyperbaric chamber, for increasing the oxygenation of my blood cells 1,000%. And I'm doing all of this because I don't believe in going to doctors. Doctors are where you go when you have a problem. You should be working on your health when you don't have problems so you don't get problems and don't have to go to the doctor. But you know what? There's a certain expense or there's a certain amount of literature that you need to become acquainted with. And for me, it's worth its time. It's worth its weight in gold at some point where people have asked me, and my buddy said, dude, NAD changed my game, all this mental clarity, focus. And I'm like, dude, I'm not feeling anything. I'm just trusting the science. And when I hope to see the benefit is decades from now. when all of a sudden it's like, dude, you're really well put together. And we're not talking about plastic surgery. We're just saying like you're like, I'm going to be ripped grandpa. I'm going to be freaking ripped grandpa, and none of my grandchildren are going to be able to best grandpa until they're adults, maybe.
Ever. No, I remember a very specific moment. I had a lot of respect for Steve Jobs and a lot of the things that he did. I think he had a really brilliant mind and approached problems very, very different than most people. But it was mentioned at a conference I was at that in his waning years, I mean, Steve Jobs was like a billionaire.
Yeah.
He had so much money. Like if you look at his yacht, it is one of the most unique yachts you've ever seen. So cool. And yet all the money in the world couldn't buy him back his health.
Yeah.
It has to be earned.
Yeah. So my wife and I are making some interesting financial choices in our life right now. We're doing an addition on our home, and we're just getting ready to break ground. We've got our builder, architect, everything lined up, but we're adding 20,000 plus square feet to the house. And what we're really building is a complex for health, rejuvenation, and entertainment. For example, it includes a racquetball court, a 4,000 square foot gym. It also includes a spa where my hyperbaric chamber, my massage therapist, deluge shower, wet dry saunas, the float spa.
Are you doing a float spa?
I'm putting a float spa in. And so because I test all these modalities out, I connect with the ones that really give me benefit, like a float spa. So my brain is always working in weirs at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But if I will get an hour of sleep in a float spa, if you guys don't know what that is, that's a deprivation tank where you're blacked out, you're naked, floating in salt water with such a high salt content that you're going to float. And
so
I don't,
you don't
by
have
the way,
to use
I don't float.
any muscle.
I don't float
to stay above water.
Yes, but in salt water like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the Dead Sea years ago. That was 33% salt content, and like my body almost didn't go more than an inch in the water. It was amazing. So, but an hour of float spa gives me 3 days of probably what brain feels like on weed, right? I don't know, but I've got people like, wow, Krohn's doing, legal marijuana in an illegal state. I'm like, float spa for me is an amplification of brain rest, and I just feel calm for 3 days after. It feels so good. So it's like I can drive down in the valley for 30 minutes and get to the right float spa that operates it the right way, and then come back, and that's an hour.
Yeah.
And if my time is worth $15,000 an hour, I
big
feel
drive.
disgusted going into the valley for racquetball. I feel disgusted going to the valley to swim. I feel disgusted. So we have a pool. This is $1 million pool that literally is underground, can't see it. And then it comes up, it makes 5-foot surf waves. So it's all indoor. The whole ceiling is glass. It's massive. And this whole complex, literally, I've planned out 8.5 hours a day that I will be adding to my schedule once it's complete, that will all be centered around rejuvenation. It'll be centered around the health benefits, and it's all centered around longevity. In other words, invest in your health if you want to invest in your wealth. Invest in your health if you claim to love somebody. Because if you don't take care of yourself, do you really love them? Or look at all the imbalance we see in the world of people that are making all of this money, and yet because they don't take care of their health, they might be robbed not just years, but decades of what they enjoy because they never found a balance. Because people don't believe, we're too busy and balance is a lie. I'm like, that's not true. We should all be in pursuit of our perfect balance. And for me, health is it has to be a huge part of that because of my longevity goals.
This has been really enlightening for me. And I'm speaking totally honestly. I get to sit down with you and have these conversations. A lot of the time you're sharing things that I've heard before. A lot of this is new to me. This was really interesting. And I think it's probably new for a lot of our audience because we don't necessarily talk about health all the time. So I have to do a shameless plug that you have a new channel, Health Elevated with Kris Krohn. It's on TikTok.
It was weird.
Instagram,
I was in
YouTube.
Chicago in this YMCA in this bizarre, obscure, middle of nowhere town, visiting some family on this jet trip that we had made around the country. And this guy, he's like, "Are you Kris Krohn from Health Elevated, Life Elevated?" And I'm like, Yep. He didn't know me for
didn't know
wealth,
you for
real estate, business.
Oh, I love it.
Didn't know any. He's just like, you're that health guy, aren't you? Can I take my picture with you? I'm like, sure, buddy. So
he has no idea that there's this whole other facet about wealth.
And listen, the whole reason why we're putting that health channel out there is because, listen, this podcast is called Have It All. And I don't believe that you can have it all unless every day there's health improvement, there's wealth improvement, and there's relationship improvement. And that relationship means God. It means you, not just the people that you love, not the people outside, but everything that's also within. So if people are making progress in those three areas, you're going to have the most full life possible. I've got a goal every morning by 9 a.m., not p.m., to have completed everything that is important to me. So that means that when I wake up at 4:30, the time that I spend at the gym, I spend an hour with my wife, I spend an hour with my kids, I'm reading books, I have time on my knees, and I'm meditating. Those activities fill me up and tell me that by 9 a.m. I've achieved everything important. Once I finish this complex, I'm just going to add to my mid and end of day routine, because at the level I'm playing at, I literally just came from a conference in Florida and struck up 6 really big, really big deals. And right now, I can make a lot of money in a very, very short period of time. So what's most important is now being at my best. Can I be at my best if I have mental brain fog because I didn't go to the gym and wake up my body and show that I have dominion over this temple, this tool that I've been granted? Am I taking it for granted, or am I actually investing in it and turning it into something? This body should be made a trophy, not for someone else to gawk at, but for you to feel like the energy that I possess from it, the benefit that I get from muscles, men and women putting muscle on your body so you can eat a little bit more, right? Properly nutritioning yourself, investing in superfoods, whole foods, good foods, eliminating processed garbage, doing things that rejuvenate your energy. That's what health is. And without health, how can you be your best in your relationships or your finances? How can I also stand before God or kneel before him and say, hey, thanks for letting me take for granted this amazing gift of a body.